Week 7, Part 1, 13.1, Searching for Discourse Communities. 13.2, Scholarly Articles Related to Discourse Communities. 13.1, Searching for Discourse Communities. As you start to explore student organizations that might fit our definition of a discourse community, it's useful to consider different definitions, understandings, and examples of discourse communities. When we encounter a new topic or idea and want to know more, we usually start with a general search on the internet using browsers such as Bing or Google. Our search skills can include using plus or minus, and or, quotation marks, and key terms in ways that greatly impact our results. Google Scholar can be effective, especially when connected to a university library, if we want to move toward formal sources in an informal way, but the sources we find on the internet are generally considered public or popular sources, as opposed to academic sources. Most of our learning is informal and independent, and most of the information we encounter is not academic. There is a wide range of popular source material available and accessible to anyone with internet service and a connected device when we encounter a new topic or idea and want to know more. As we begin to explore the concept of a discourse community and discourse communities in general, let's see what we can learn about discourse communities by searching for popular sources to see what they say about discourse communities generally and what they say about writing within discourse communities in particular. A Google search for the term discourse community produces about 119 million results in 0.62 seconds. One option is a simple explanation of discourse community with examples, which appears to be a purely popular source. Review this material and note a few pieces of information you learn from the content. Also consider what we know about the author or the site and how it impacts what we think about the content. Another result is discourse communities, from the technical communication body of knowledge, which is not directly affiliated with a university, but was built and is maintained by contributors who span the academic and industry. What information are we given about the contributors? What new information about discourse communities stuck out and stuck with you when you reviewed this text? Another result was, yeah, I've read it, why and how Reddit is becoming the world's most influential discourse community. Clicking around on the site reveals that the author began his exploration as part of a university-level composition course. What did you learn from reading this page? One pattern that emerges is that all three popular sources cite work by John Swales and build on his academic publications and definitions. When we narrow our search to results that end in edu, we find Fandom and Participatory Culture, which is not a scholarly text, but is affiliated with Grinnell College. Better yet, the site provides examples of fan-based discourse communities that help make the concept more tangible. Consider how this material is and is not like the material on the other pages, and note specific new information you notice. Our search for popular sources provides an overview of discourse communities and some examples that might help us develop a better understanding of discourse communities. Developing an understanding of discourse communities as it is used in scholarly conversations and sources, however, requires an academic source and a scholarly definition. In addition to a popular definition of discourse communities, the popular texts all point to the academic conversation as the foundation of the broad concepts. Our general search has provided a general understanding of the broad concept to serve as a foundation for our broad understanding, and in most cases, our inquiries stop with Google, perhaps even with the meta tags that appear on a first skim of results. Because we want to understand the academic definition of discourse communities, we will turn to scholarly sources in general, and then to the specific source that the popular sources suggest, in order to expand our information and refine our understanding. Assignment 13.1. Read the linked sources and reference the content directly as you answer the following. Number 1. What did reading a simple explanation of discourse community with examples teach you about discourse communities? What stuck out to you about the site? Number 2. What did reading Discourse Communities from the TCBOK teach you about discourse communities? Number 3. What did reading, yeah, I've read it, why and how Reddit is becoming the world's most influential discourse community teach you about discourse communities? Number 4. What did reading, fandom, and participatory culture teach you about discourse communities? Number 5. Did any of these texts discuss writing practices as part of the discourse community? Which and what did it say? Number 6. How do the authors and websites impact your opinion of the material and its credibility? 13.2. Scholarly articles related to discourse communities. While it's clear that not all groups are discourse communities, it isn't necessarily clear what criteria can be used to make that designation, or how many distinctions are necessary to define a group as a discourse community. The definitions we use depend on our audience and intended use. If we are just talking with friends about discourse communities, a broad, general use of the concept makes sense. If we are using the concept to frame an expository overview that will be submitted as an assignment for a university-level writing course, we will want to use a definition tailored to this use and audience. At times, different definitions come in contact in spaces where different people have different uses. We may be chatting in an informal social space online and enter a conversation where one person is using a personal or popular meaning of the term racism, while another person is discussing institutional or structural racism. The confusion can result not only from different definitions, but also from different access to the different definitions. We read a few popular texts about the concept of discourse communities, most of which pointed to academic ideas and an academic author. Not unlike our Google search, searching for academic material often begins by searching for a few key terms. As USF students, you have access to the USF library, which means you have access to all the scholarly material that is not accessible in a general internet search. To move our understanding of discourse communities as a concept from the general to the specific, let's see what browsing in the USF library brings up and how it can help us expand our understanding. Researching. Mirroring a Google search for content related to discourse communities resulted in finding a number of texts, some of which noted the work of John Swales and referenced the academic conversation on the topic of discourse communities. Searching scholarly sources to see what topics and conversations appear in the academic sources will broaden your understanding of the conversation and of the ways in which discourse communities are being studied and discussed. Begin by browsing for material on discourse communities in the USF library to see what you find. Are you finding articles on the concept of a discourse community or on specific discourse communities? Based on what you find, select a few key words related to a discourse community you are interested in and see if there is any material on the group. Perhaps try searching for articles with both the terms discourse community and terms connected to a group you are interested in discourse community plus deadheads. In general, try to navigate the USF library online and see what you find. Once you locate and select an article that interests you, read the information on the main page of the search, which should include the abstract. Reading the abstract for a few different sources will help you get an idea of what is out there and decide whether it is an article that can serve your purpose. Try to review at least 4 or 5 abstracts to narrow your search. Select an article you find relevant to your expository overview in some way. It can discuss discourse communities or a specific discourse community, or any element tangentially related to a discourse community you are considering exploring. You may already have a discourse community in mind, but if you don't, start to think of groups you are interested in and see what you can find. Once you narrow your search to an article that is relevant, read the abstract carefully and scan the article, noticing headers and major sections. Then skim the article more closely to get a general idea of the content in each section. Finally, decide if and how the article should be used in relation to your expository overview. The article you select does not have to be specifically related to your topic in order to include useful information on the concepts and examples of approaches to research that can inform your expository overview. You may find articles that apply the concept of discourse communities as a theoretical lens, that offer an academic analysis of a discourse community, or that investigate the role of participation within a discourse community. Searching topics related to the specific interests of the discourse community you are considering exploring can also result in finding articles you may want to explore. Searching. In addition to browsing academic sources to see what is available on discourse communities, searching the library for scholarly sources will allow you to become familiar with the basics of library research. You can access the library online, or you can go to the library in person as well, even if you are in an online section. The USF librarians are always happy to help. To begin, review these basic resources. Basic searching in the USF Library Catalog. Searching for scholarly articles. Keyword searches. Choosing and evaluating resources for college writing. Find it. Reviewing these resources should provide you with enough of an understanding to start your search for a scholarly source related to a discourse community you are interested in exploring. You can begin by searching the USF Library's front page search. Ideally, you will find material related to discourse communities in general, or material on discourse community you are interested in exploring. But even if you don't, you will have expanded your Google search and supplemented your initial understanding based on the popular sources. By expanding from a general understanding of discourse communities to a general understanding of the academic concept, we will be prepared to narrow in on the academic material. Assignment 13.2. Using the USF Library, locate a scholarly article related to a discourse community and respond to the following. Number 1. What articles did you locate and how did you locate it? Number 2. What was it about and how was it related to a discourse community? Number 3. Format the article using MLA guidelines. Hanging indentation may not show in Canvas, but include all other requirements for MLA. Number 4. Does the abstract include a clear thesis that states the finding? If so, state it. If not, what does the abstract include? Number 5. Finally, list at least 3 things you learned from watching the instructional videos and 1 thing you learned from searching in the library.